bad stuff. See, what Jesus is trying to get across here is that listen, how the end is coming, how storms are coming. And in fact, I put it on my notes this way, is that really one of the ways you know destruction is on its way is that destruction always begins with distraction. Destruction always begins with distraction. Destruction in anything in your life. In a marriage, in a relationship, when it comes to a church, destruction always begins with distraction. Oftentimes I'll tell people who are getting married, it's like there's no such thing as a person who falls out of love. Just two people who fell out of focus. They got distracted from one another. They started getting consumed and focused and chasing after other things. And listen, if I'm honest with you, I believe we live some of the most distracted lives in the history of the world these days. Because the truth is, we've got more things to distract us than probably ever before. We live in maybe one of the richest times ever in the history of humanity. We got more entertainment options and just stuff to distract and stuff to kind of numb our mind and numb our focus and distract our focus from the things that really matter most in life. In fact, Jesus put it this way, he said, it's easier for a camel to walk through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of God. And listen, he's not talking about Bill Gates here. He's talking about you and me. He's talking about this reality that listen, we've got more than ever before, from our phones, from our jobs, from our entertainment options, from our TV, from our sports. We got so many things constantly buying for our attention, constantly buying for our affection, constantly buying for our focus. And if we're not careful, we can allow it to pull our mind and pull our focus off of the things and the people that matter most in our lives. And listen, and especially when it comes to this call that's really on all of our lives, we're all called to be a part of this rescue plan. We're all called to be a part of building his church, of building this place with, and building these walls and building this ministry of a place that has the power and the potential to save, and not just our family, but our community, our neighborhoods, people around us. But listen, it'll never happen as long as we're constantly allowing ourselves to just live distracted, chaotic lives. That's what I love about Noah. Noah built. Rather than, just sitting there saying, man, this is too much for me. I don't want to deal with this, and kind of going doing his own thing. It says Noah built. When other people just went about their lives, Noah began to build. When other people looked at him and were like, what are you doing working on that boat? Why don't you build a bigger house, right? Why don't you work on your career, Noah? Why don't you do this and do that? And Noah was building a boat, and it didn't make any sense to anybody. Because in the middle, by the way, because here's the thing, in the middle of all these distractions, when you actually live your life for what matters, let me tell you something, it's going to look strange. It says in the text in Genesis 6, says that Noah was different. Noah was different. And listen, here's the thing. If you want to make a difference, if you want to build a legacy that's built and helps to lead people to eternity, that helps to make a difference in someone's life that's lasting, listen, if you want to make a difference, you got to be willing to be a little different. You got to be willing to walk around with some different priorities. You got to be willing to walk around with a different set of values. You got to be willing to walk around with a different measure of success. You got to be willing to be different enough to sit there and say, you know what? My first and primary focus is, I'm going to seek his kingdom first. Because I realize that when I do that, listen, everything else falls into place. Everything else, it's amazing how God just starts to kind of bring things together. When I look at some of the dysfunction, when I look at some of the struggles, when it comes to my family or comes to my work or comes to my job, listen, if I'll just seek him first, if I'll surrender my life to living his plan for my life and in being a part, even in some cases, of just investing in his rescue plan. If I'll build his house, it's amazing how he'll build mine. He'll take care of some of that other stuff that so easily we get distracted and we get consumed and we stress out about. And again, I love this picture of Noah. You can just picture of Noah every day, talking about a guy who lived a different kind of life with a different set of priorities and a different set of values and a different mark when it came to success. As you can just imagine, every single day, Noah's 3 sons waking up and they heard the sounds of building. Not Noah building a new addition on his house, not him building a new chariot, Noah building an ark. And you just imagine them day after day, Dad, what are you doing? Well, what are you doing, Dad? Why are you building this ark? Why are you investing so much time? Why are you investing so much stuff into this? I mean, get this, Noah for 120 years was building this ark. 120 years. I mean, we think of like committing to serve in like kids ministry for 3 months, and it's like, oh my goodness, that's like eternity. Like 120 years he was building this thing. And yet, again, if we take the time and we have the courage and we're serious about building a spiritual legacy, if we'll build his house, it's amazing how he'll build ours. And I think in a lot of ways, set the stage to, in some cases, literally save our family. That's what we see here. I mean, look at it, Genesis 7:1 says, after all this building, all this investment, doing something that had to seem strange to an unbelieving world around him. So then the Lord said to Noah, go into the ark, you and all your household. You and all your household. For I've seen that you are righteous before me in this generation. Because Noah was willing to build into God's house. But Noah was willing to build a legacy of faith. As a result, his entire family was saved. His entire family was rescued. And listen, I share this because I think sometimes there's some of us, we can kind of come in here and wonder, man, when it comes to our kids, like why don't my kids get in the boat? Well, why don't my kids seem to have a heart to get involved in church or have anything to do with a relationship with God? I just don't understand why they don't want to get involved, why they don't want to get into faith. Listen, I'm going to tell you the truth is that the next generation, listen, they won't get in it until you invest your life in it. The next generation, they won't get in it until you invest your life in it. They're not going to believe in it until you build it. The problem is they see our lives, they hear us talk about God's importance and God's value in our lives, but then we just go on living these distracted lives. We pursue and we live for things that seem to rival the very thing that we say is so important to us. But again, Noah's sons, they saw every day Dad working on the boat. We're working on it together. As a family, we're building this thing. And when the rains came, when the storms came, when the challenges of life came, they had a faith in it. They knew where to go because they watched their daddy invest in it his whole life. Listen, your kids are going to put their faith in whatever it is you build most. Your kids are going to put their faith in whatever it is that you build most. And look, I'm going to just make some of you mad here tonight. So, put your seatbelt on. But it's truth. And listen, I'm telling it to you because I love you. I care for you. I care about seeing your kids rescued. And here's the truth is that Noah, he built something that saved his family. Listen, soccer isn't going to save your kids. It's not. Swimming isn't going to save your kids. Yeah, it might give them a scholarship, but that scholarship isn't going to save your kids. Only a faith in Jesus Christ can save your kids and save your family. Being a part of a rescue plan with the power and the potential to save the world around you has the potential to actually save those closest to you, those that matter most in your life. And listen, I say all this too because here's something you got to get though too, is that, listen, you can't build a legacy of faith by just being a weekend warrior either. Again, this is more than just, hey, show up to church and let's do this thing. This is more than that. Look at Noah's life. Genesis 6:9 says, Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked faithfully with God. He walked faithfully with God. This was more than just a weekend project for Noah. No. Monday through Friday, every day in between, he walked with God. He had a relationship with God that extended beyond just the four walls of a church building. This might surprise some of you, but do you realize that the most important church that I pastor is not this one? The most important church that I pastor each and every week is not this one. Some of you are like, I knew it. I knew he liked Walport Foursquare. Like favoritism going on here. No, it's not that one either. The most important congregation that I pastor is my wife, is my boy, it's my family. It's not on a Saturday night, it's not on a Sunday morning, it's Monday through Friday. And all the moments in between. That's the most important ministry. Talking about building a church, and this might come to surprise you too, is that, do you realize that the same is true for you too? Like, well, come on, Pastor, I'm not a pastor. Well, actually, the Bible would tell you otherwise. The Bible says you're a royal priesthood. Listen, you got a call. You got a responsibility. Listen, the most important, you talk about building, leaving a legacy of faith, of building something, a spiritual foundation with the power and the potential to rescue our kids and rescue our family. Listen, it takes more than just a weekend commitment. It's about having a walk with Jesus, living a life that is on fire and alive and in motion with Jesus. And that's what we see with Noah. That's what Noah had. He was a guy who again walked with Jesus. He walked with Jesus. And listen, I think this. I think sometimes, especially for guys, this can be really tough for us. I remember some years back when I went to Tanzania. I went there to do some of these kind of training times with all these different pastors and. Talked on leadership and stuff like that. And I remember every time before I would get up to speak to all these different groups, is that there would be this announcement, this pronouncement of, hey, the man of God is about to speak to you. The man of God, every single time before I get there, the man of God is going to speak to you. How many know that's a little intimidating, right? Like you go up there, and I remember my first instinct was like, man of God, I'm just an ordinary guy here. I'm just an ordinary guy with some bumps and bruises and flaws. Man of God, it was intimidating. It was, there was something about it. Every time they said it, I'm like, it didn't necessarily rub me the right way. Of like, I didn't necessarily see that in myself. And listen, I think that's how it is sometimes for especially guys in terms of fathers, is that I think we don't always see the value, see the authority, and see the significance of the role, especially fathers, have been given in the lives of our kids. Listen, that there's some significance, that God He's called you to take the lead when it comes to being an example, of who God is, of what it is to live out this faith, of what it is to walk with Jesus in our lives. And again, I think sometimes we can lose sight of that because we sit there and think, well, that's just not me. I'm just an ordinary guy. And of course, we live in a culture too that time and time again tries to reinforce this message that yeah, you're right. We don't necessarily need fathers. We don't necessarily need men of God. We don't need guys kind of stepping up to the plate in that kind of potential. Like we can do it without you. Trying to kind of devalue the role there. In fact, I was thinking about this, and I think I've shared this commercial one time before, but just it always strikes me, and it's always super powerful, and it just kind of speaks to the significance, especially of the role of a father in the lives of kids, and especially passing on this legacy of faith. Why don't you take a look at this?
Donc là, être père, c'est un défi.
Elas se perdem na tecnologia.
Aujourd'hui, tout se passe sur Internet.
Su teléfono, comunicarse con sus amigos.
They have the world at their fingertips.
Do your kids come to you as much as you went to your dad?
Não.
All right, come on in. So first up, I'm gonna have you look up a few things on the internet.
How do I tie a tie? ¿Cómo preguntar a una chica cuándo salir? Hey,
Comment est-ce qu'on se rase?
how do I fry an egg? Bien.
Le bas à brûler.
¿Cuál es tu color favorito?
Now I'm gonna have you ask your dad.
¿Qué estás haciendo?
Qu'est-ce que tu fais?
Le miras a los ojos.
Faut que tu fasses 2 fois le tour. Avec ça, ça sera plus simple.
Salga todo perfecto, ¿no ves?
¿Sí?
That's pretty good.
Tienes que tener presencia. Decime a mí. Explicar lo que hay que hacer, ¿no?
C'est pas mal, hein? Voilà, premier rasage.
Tcharam.
So, which was better?
The better teacher was my dad. Et mi papá.
Était plus personnel sur les informations.
Sabe lo que yo no entiendo.
Teus filhos são a coisa mais importante do mundo e
Je voudrais remercier mon papa.
Eu te amo.
também te amo, gente.
Já não.
Isn't that great? Yeah, listen, if you're a guy, especially in here, listen, you need to know something. You're more than just a guy. You are a man of God. Some of you that you have kids, listen, you're more than just a father. You're the pastor. You're the leader of your home. And listen, with that authority, listen, your words, listen, it carries a lot more weight. It carries a lot more significance, a lot more value than sometimes we always get it credit for. But listen, with this authority comes responsibility, and that responsibility is to take the lead and being an example of showing our kids and showing the next generation of what it is to live out this faith in Christ, of what it is to be a godly man, what it is to be a godly husband, what it is to be a godly father. Are we living lives? Are we taking the lead in there? And not just, by the way, with our actions, but also with our words. Noah, it says, was a preacher of righteousness. I like that. He was a preacher of righteousness. He didn't just speak about all that was wrong in the world, but he called out the things that were right as well. And listen, I think this, so often, it can be easy to kind of hear this chance, I'll be a leader in my home, be a leader in my kids, be an example. And, I don't know how to do that. I'm struggling just to wake up and make it to work and make it back again on my own. Like, what do I have to give? What do I have to speak into the life of my kids or in the life of this next generation? Listen, John Eldridge, he wrote a book, and he really kind of summed it down, when it came down to really the one message that every boy and every little girl needs to hear. And I like it because I think it takes so much pressure off of, of just feeling like, I've got to live this life that somehow, to be an example, God, is to always do things right and to have all the answers. No, it's to be a preacher of righteousness. It's to call out not simply, what is, when our kids make a mistake, not talking about all that stuff, but calling out what's right in their life, what's good in their life. And in fact, John Eldridge, he puts it down to 2 questions, the 2 things, really the one thing, I guess, every boy needs to know and every girl needs to know. And what every boy wants to know and needs to know is simply, do I have what it takes? Do I have what it takes? What every boy, even grown boys, grown men up here, what we long to hear is, and the question that's always in our mind is, do I have what it takes? And listen, every girl wants to know, am I lovely? Am I lovely? Listen, you want to be an example of faith. You want to be a preacher of righteousness. Man, then have the courage that every single day you get a chance and you get an opportunity to make sure you're taking that opportunity to speak and call out what's right in their life. To remind your boy that, man, I believe in you. You're going to be an amazing man. I see potential in you. I see skills in you. I see ability in you. I see talent in you. I see a future man of God in you. And when it comes to our little girls, I remind them, listen, I see beauty in you. You're a treasure. You're the jewel of my eye. Listen, are we being preachers of righteousness in our family and in our kids' lives? I like what Jim Valvano says. He says, my father gave me the greatest gift anyone could give another person. He believed in me. He believed in me. I love that. Which leads, and we'll start to wrap up with this, is that listen, while faith is, it's built in investing in God's plan, and specifically God's rescue plan, and as we build his house, he builds our house. But listen, faith, when we're serious about leaving a legacy of faith, you got to understand that faith is formed when things don't go as planned. Faith is oftentimes formed most when things don't go as planned, at least as planned as we think it should go. Genesis 6:9, Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked faithfully with God. Listen, he was blameless, but get this, that doesn't mean he was faultless. In fact, if you read later on in Noah's story, you come to discover that he was a man who had more than a few cracks and issues in his life. See, he was blameless. Get this, he was blameless because he was righteous.